It had been more than 5 days since Talion's training began in full swing. They were on day 6 now, and Talion had already been training for more than 3 hours. There he stood in the clearing, dashing from place to place, fighting off the countless demons that Salus summoned to assail him. A never-ending procession of conflict. Occasionally summoning Rico in, whether to his advantage or not. If one were close enough, then the sounds of his conflict would be evident for them to hear. The sounds of demons being destroyed by sword or fire. Explosions sent off from his fire breath. Whirls of wind from him absorbing one demon after another. A process that only seemed to be growing more difficult as time passed. Rico had just finished being summoned to the field and was returning to Salus's side, feeling somewhat lackluster for energy. The weapons that she had summoned beginning to fade away as she made her way back, trying to catch her breath. Rico done now, she said, kneeling over, grasping her knees. Good job, Rico, as always, he said, as he handed her another small vial containing a potion that would restore her demonic energy. It was at this point that Melody and Vera approached them. Salus, I'd like to speak with you, Melody said from behind, her grandmother flanking her, both of them with very concerned looks on their face. Well, I'm a little busy right now. Do you think you could hold off on it? No, I have to speak with you now. Fine, Salus replied. But if you can, make it quick. I do have to concentrate, you know. Your son isn't going to train himself. Or maybe he will. And what is that supposed to mean? Melody said, sounding upset. You've been at this for nearly a week. 6 days of endless combat. I'm worried that you're being too hard on him. He's just a boy. I know he has to be strong, but I'm beginning to feel like this is becoming too much. Every day those demons you produce just get stronger, and you make more of them. It almost seems as if you're making it harder with every passing second. It's not fair. I know you want to make him strong, but I think you might be asking too much of him. For once, I'm in agreement with my daughter. I do think this training is becoming a bit much. I mean, seriously, there are more than 40 of them out on the field right now. Don't you think that's a bit too heavy? His training should be more measured. Give the boy time to progress in a natural way. Stop forcing it. It was at that point that Salus began to laugh. He laughed joyously, a large smile on his face. Looking back at them, is that really what you think? Yes! Stop laughing at us! Our concerns are perfectly valid. You're being too hard on him. Well, I suppose the increases in difficulty might make you think that, Salus said, smiling in their direction. But, truth be told, I'm not the one increasing the difficulty. What? What are you talking about? Of course you are. No, I'm not, Salus said. Based on the structure for training that I created, there was supposed to be a measured increase in the difficulty of the training. Things getting more difficult slightly over time, allowing for natural progression. But tell me something. Look out there at your son, Melody, and tell me what you see. Not just the fighting. Look past that. Pay attention. Melody did her best to try to focus on Talion, which, in the mix of things, was exceptionally difficult. He was constantly moving. He never stayed in one place, attacking one enemy after the next, some of them dividing and becoming multiple demons, others dissipating, powers flying about rapidly in all directions. Taleon had even begun filtering in illusions, which was the first spell that he learned to cast. So sometimes there would be more than one of him, or he would seemingly disappear only to reappear elsewhere and attack one of the demons assailing him, or multiple of them in a single shot. It was hard to keep a focus on him, but as Melody finally caught his gaze, seeing him in action, she finally noticed it. There was a smile on his face, as if he was enjoying himself, as if this was all just fun. In the moment, Melody was completely taken back by it. He's smiling. Why on earth is he smiling? Well, that's simple, Salus replied. He's smiling because he's enjoying himself. He is having fun. This training is going better than I could have possibly anticipated. Leaps and bounds beyond, in fact. The training that I'm subjecting your son to would put most kids his age, well, into a state of complete and utter panic. And in the beginning, that's what it was. Taleon couldn't handle it at all. He felt overwhelmed, scared by it. The demons defeating him on multiple occasions. But after day 2, something changed. Perhaps something within Taleon woke up. But regardless of what you want to say happened, from that point on, the entire training process became his. He claimed it as his own. He not only started fighting off the demons far more effectively, but he started progressing frighteningly rapidly. His skills and abilities have improved so much in the last few days, it's terrifying. It's as if he has a sixth sense for it, as if he was made to fight. And just look at the smile on his face. He's loving every moment of it. You talk about the difficulty that I'm placing on him, but you're wrong. I'm not the one cranking up the difficulty. Taleon is. I included the facet of the demons doubling if they're defeated in any measure aside from the one that's specific to them. Originally, this was supposed to give Taleon the ability to read and measure his opponents, to use effective strategy in combat. And it worked effectively. Taleon, after the first few days, was able to accurately and quickly decide and decipher which enemies were effective to which attacks. Even if I change them, it doesn't take him long to figure out which ones are which, regardless of what I make their physical appearance, color, or abilities. But by day 4, that wasn't enough for him. Taleon began to note which ones were destroyed by which abilities, but continued destroying them in other ways anyway. He's doubling their numbers on purpose. He's making more of them. He doesn't find it challenging enough, so he's making it more difficult. He's taken an aspect that I included in order to sift out weakness, the weakness of not being able to read your opponents, and turned it into a measure by which he can increase the difficulty of his challenge whenever he wants. That's why there are so many of them. It's not because Taleon doesn't know which ones are affected by which attacks. There simply weren't enough to challenge him. There weren't enough of them to make it difficult, to make it exciting. So he cranks up the difficulty and makes more of them, doubling them time after time. I've even noticed that when I've begun to summon Rico to the field, that whenever Rico is actually on his side, he's upset by it. He's begun to summon her in the hopes that she'll be against him. His progression in combat is startling, to say the least. Not just mentally, but physically. His ability to channel demonic energy has increased vastly, and even his demonic energy level is going up by leaps and bounds. It was already absurdly high for his age, but it just keeps climbing. His ability to use his natural demonic abilities and even magic on the fly, rapidly, without any preparation time whatsoever, is amazing. The time just keeps getting shorter. He's begun to learn the tactics and strategies of the demons that I produce, luring them into traps of his own, setting them up to take massive falls. He's controlling the ebb and flow of combat to his own desire. You say I'm being too hard on your son. The truth is, I'm having trouble keeping up. Honestly, I don't think there's much more that he can learn from this training method, unless I beef it up, and I'm talking a major increase. It was already taxing to accomplish what I am, but it seems that it's not enough for Taleon. Tomorrow, I'm going to have to up the ante in a major way. Things have become too easy for Taleon. In order to truly press his abilities, I have to offer him true challenge. To be honest, I'm excited by it. I've never had a student with this much skill or ability. The prospect of seeing how high he can climb, it's rather exciting, Salas said, looking out at the battlefield with a smile on his face, baring his teeth in a toothy grin that sort of sent shivers down Melody and Vera's spine.